everyone, Alec Elger the SideQuest Gamer here, and I've officially opened the Pandora's box of gaming.
Yes, I'm using Greek mythology to explain my situation here. I was told by the internet not to play these games because they're so bad, but these are the same people who told me that Metroid Other M and Resident Evil 5 were bad, and I kind of liked Resident Evil 5, and I did like Metroid Other M only in terms of gameplay. But another reason why I'm covering the Bubsy games is because I'll be doing a review marathon of the classic Sonic games in June, and it's only appropriate to cover its biggest ripoff of all time first. So like a fool, I opened Pandora's box and unleashed all the evils of the gaming industry from the 90s, with its most prominent evil being that type of game selling millions. Let's make our own just like that game so we sell millions. And like I said, the capitalistic result would form the biggest ripoff of Sonic the Hedgehog of all time.
And that would be Awesome Possum, but we're not here to talk about him today. No, we're here to talk about that darn cat Bubsy.
Ah yes, Bubsy the Bobcat. Who doesn't like bobcats? Well, thanks to this game, I sure don't anymore. Bubsy is an anthropomorphic bobcat made by Accolade to capitalize on the major success of Sonic the Hedgehog. But it's not like Accolade was the only company to do this. Because Sonic was such a successful platformer due to Sonic being cool and with the times, in addition to having some excellent gameplay, Mario now had some serious competition. So basically, every video game company wanted to make their own mascot to take down Mario and Sonic, and thus began the Animal Mascot Wars, a war where animal mascots were used to represent their respective companies. There was Arrow the Acrobat, Awesome Possum, James Pond, Earthworm Jim, Sparkster the Rocket Knight, Radical Rex, and Bubsy. Out of all those trying to compete with Sonic the Hedgehog in terms of quality, only Earthworm Jim and Sparkster truly rivaled Sonic in terms of originality and gameplay. James Pond and Arrow the Acrobat didn't do as well, but they were still a fun time nonetheless. But Radical Rex, Bubsy, and especially Awesome Possum were poor quality ripoffs of Sonic.
To my surprise, Bubsy is actually the least offensive of the three.
Bubsy was developed by Solid Software and published by Accolade on multiple consoles in 1993. The franchise was conceived by game designer Michael Berlin, who worked on games before and was burned out from making a platformer until he played Sonic the Hedgehog for a week and gained inspiration to make a game just like Sonic the Hedgehog. And so, Bubsy was born and released on multiple consoles. But as to which console version is better than the other, well, as for differences between the SNES version and the Genesis version, they both have the same graphics and frame rate, but the sound is different. The SNES version you can hear much clearer than its Genesis counterpart, but the music is not something I want to listen to. In fact, I could really care less about the music in the game. It was composed by Matt Berardo, and it grinds your gears after the music loops over and over and over and just won't end. Not to mention, parts of it are recycled for the later levels in the same world, and it just gets really annoying. Now, if there's one thing I have to praise Bubsy for, it's the graphics. They're in a typical cartoony style, but for 1993, they're very good. And while I wouldn't say it's nice to look at due to its weird style, they're very good nonetheless. But one thing I notice about Bubsy is that the character animations feel like they need more frames of animation. Just watch Bubsy do his rip-off Sonic spin jump. You know how when Sonic does it, it actually looks like it's spinning so fast like it's a helicopter rotor? Well, Bubsy's spin animation is like 10 frames per second when it should be like 20, at least. Solid Software obviously thought the lazier animation would fool us. Well, unfortunately for them, us retro gamers can see through that.
You know, I find it funny that us as gamers can easily look back in the 80s and 90s and expose the evils of gaming back then, yet we have no problem with today's companies charging us a lot of money for DLC and microtransactions in addition to the $60 price we paid for the game. Yeah, enjoy your $120 Mortal Kombat X, suckers.
This game is such a shameless Sonic ripoff. Usually I give video games the benefit of the doubt if it borrows some elements from other games, but this thing copies everything but does it poorly. Even the creator of Bubsy said that it was just meant to capitalize on Sonic's success. Usually producers keep quiet about that no matter how long ago that happened, but he had no shame, and neither does this game. Right from the first level, you see Bubsy running up the hill to show that Bubsy can also handle speed. But with the cheaply placed enemies in addition to the careless level design, they couldn't replicate Sonic. They really couldn't. I mean, look at Adventure Island. Sure, it's derived from Super Mario Bros., but at least they did it well. And I always say, if it does it well, it does it well. But Bubsy doesn't do it well. And Bubsy really brings nothing new to the platformer genre. But there is some originality to it, and only in terms of story. If you want to know the story, then basically, these aliens called Woolies, ooh, clever name, they have invaded Earth intending to steal all of its yarn. Bubsy, being a stereotypical cat, doesn't want that to happen, so guess what? We're on an adventure, and what could possibly go wrong in this platformer?
Now, I've said many times before in my review show that a platformer doesn't need a compelling story in order to be enjoyable. But come on, Accolade, is this the best you can give us? At least saving the princess from another castle had a plot hole-free incentive.
Well, whatever. So these Woolies are your main enemies throughout the game, and luckily when you kill them by jumping on top of them, they don't respawn even when you die, which is a plus in Bubsy's favor. Okay, maybe that's something new to bring to the platformer genre, but that's so minuscule. Rather than start the game with the common 3 or 5 lives, you start Bubsy out with 9 lives for some random reason that is not from a common stereotype of cats or anything. But because of the unpredictable level hazards and cheap enemy placement, you'll lose your lives really fast. There's a total of 16 levels throughout the game, which is about the same amount of Sonic the Hedgehog's, but not quite, and honestly, I'm fine with that because this game really doesn't get any better except the later levels are more flat. But the level hazards like trickster water slides that send you to your death without warning are examples of how unfair this game can be. And it doesn't help that the camera isn't that good either. It's zoomed in too close to Bubsy to the point where you can't see the platforms you want to land on below when you're jumping or being launched in the air. And for some reason when you're running, the camera moves to the left, making incoming enemies impossible to see. Each level has a quote-unquote clever pun for a title, but not one of them made me laugh at all. It's like Bubsy's trying way too hard to be cooler than Sonic, but comes off as a total sweater-wearing dork. His voice clips are not as annoying in this game than the game's sequel where the legendary Rob Paulsen voices him, but the voice clips in this game are still annoying nonetheless. In Bubsy 2, his voice is a lot more high-pitched and annoying, but in Bubsy 1, he has a very nasally kind of voice. So the voice clips in the Bubsy series are more of a pick-your-poison kind of deal. So Bubsy just didn't do it for me, at least the first game. I've yet to play the others, but sure, the graphics look nice and cartoony, but if the gameplay is unspectacular, then who cares about the graphics? Now, I know a few of you like this game since some of you grew up with it, but it's understandable that as kids, the game you owned was a game you played for weekends and weekends regardless of quality. Because video games were expensive back then, and as a kid around 7 or 8, which is around when most kids start gaming, it doesn't take much to be entertained. Heck, I've played a lot of games that I liked as kids, but then when going back to them, I questioned why I liked them in the first place. As kids, some of you have overlooked the flaws of Bubsy, and if he was a cartoon character that said funny things, you probably appreciated the leveled names. And I'm not here to take your childhood away from you. Treasure those memories. I mean, it introduced you to gaming most likely. But for those who didn't play Bubsy and are curious as to if it's a bad game, I personally do not like it that much, but considering the good graphics, mediocre gameplay, decent sound and music, and bad level design, this game would get my overall rating of a 52 out of 100. It's for nothing special and an evident ripoff of Sonic, and it's not a bad game, but it's very mediocre. It's at least playable. I would not recommend this game to those who didn't play it before, but if you're curious about my opinion about it, that's that. It's not great, but it's not absolutely terrible. Now, I know there's a version for the PC called Super Bubsy, but it's just the same game as the Genesis and SNES version, likely with better music, but still the same game pretty much, so there's really no point in looking at it.
1 down, 3 more to go. Thank you so much for watching, and what could possibly go wrong?
Well, are you still playing this thing?
Not anymore.